Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to look at my current reading list, books that I've bought recently, started reading it, or sometimes maybe even reading it for university, but I still think it's quite of people screaming in the hallways. Anyways, but yeah, so it's not a wrap-up of the books, it's not a full review of the books, but it's more of a books I haven't finished yet, or literally what I'm currently just reading now and what is shaping my thoughts. Between my work, between my university and personal life, of course, it's been kind of hard to read consistently every day, and this is a very much slow and ongoing process of reading these books, and I hope to be able to update you in the near future, hopefully, maybe after winter holidays, on a actual review on those books, or maybe even new books that I'm starting. So I hope to continue this series on what I'm currently reading, what is currently shaping my thoughts. And I want to also say that a lot of these books are connected, and they deal with history, politics, identity, nationalism, colonialism, Europe, or religion. So there are a lot of themes, but they are still overlapping with each other. Again, so yeah, if even I'm not flying through all of these books, they are still shaping how I think currently, or will be thinking in the future. So I still thought that it would be nice to have a video about them. So yeah, some of them are my current reads, my personal reads. Some of them are actually from university, so I still added them in here. And a couple I haven't started yet. I think it's 2 that I just got recently, because it was also on sale, so I had to grab them. But I still wanted to talk about them because they're very, very much on my mind, and I'm looking forward to reading them. And these are topics that I'm currently thinking of, and I want to know more about them. So let's get right into it, I guess. All right, so for the first book, I have some notes here on my laptop beside me, so if I'm looking to the other side, I'm just checking on the points that I've written down, which I really, really appreciate to be said in here. So the first book is Goodbye Eastern Europe by Jacob Mikanowski. So it's this one, actually. I hope you can see it. So this is an intimate history of a divided land. So it's basically about Eastern Europe. It's a non-fiction book, and it's not in the way we usually hear about like non-fiction books, because Jacob, he is a journalist but also a historian, so he kind of brings his journalistic style into a mostly, if we read books by historians, it's mostly stated facts and then chronologically going through the book. But he doesn't do that. He actually goes into this it kind of feels like a reportage if you watch it, or like a documentary, actually. So it's very, very nice to read, and it's divided into themes and subjects about Eastern Europe, and not just about the chronological history of it. So he goes into it at the region, Eastern Europe, through the themes like empires, nationalism, borders, violence and memory. Or, for example, the first chapter, as you can see, he has... the camera is tracking my face, sorry about that. So it's actually divided into parts, and each part has, I think, about 4 chapters. So part 1 is faith. So you have the first one, the pagans and Christians, the second being Jews, the third chapter being on Muslims, and the fourth chapter being on heretics. And for part 2, we have empires and peoples, where he just goes into different empires. For example, in the 5th chapter, Empires, he goes to look at the Austro-Hungarian Empire or the Ottoman Empire, and to see Eastern Europe through the lens of these themes and subjects, which is quite nice to have, since Eastern Europe is huge. It's half of Europe, actually. So you can't just go chronologically and just look at the dates and what happened, and we have this group of people. Because it wasn't just one group, it was more than one, and they're all interacting. And so what I really like about this book is that it challenges this very Western idea of Europe as a one neat and unified story, which it clearly is not. And Eastern Europe is presented as a place that's constantly being shaped throughout history and reshaped and reshaped and reshaped. So by empires, the wars, displacement, and also about Jewish history, about Muslim history, which I find very interesting. And for example, the case of Bosnia, how this country or Albania came to have such a majority of Muslim people living there, even though Europe was essentially Christian before the Ottoman Empire and other influences. So it's quite interesting to see how it goes on, and I've come actually until the half. So sometimes it's quite hard to read, not in the sense of the grammar or anything, but it's just lots of information coming in, especially about groups or peoples or certain history sections that you don't know yet about or you haven't heard of. So sometimes it takes you quite some time to realize what is being said, and maybe sometimes I also had to go and do some in-depth research myself about a certain topic, so I had to Google some things, and I wanted to know more about it, because sometimes, I mean, it is a lot. I mean, Eastern Europe is big, so there's a lot to talk about. So not everything is in-depth, but I feel like there is a concise, not chronological, but concise idea of how he argues, and storytelling is also really great in this one. So it's not a light read, of course, but it's very readable, and it really makes you rethink what we even mean when we say Europe, or especially Eastern Europe. What is being meant with that? Is it the identity? Is it the borders? Is it the people? Is it the language group? Because people assume that Eastern Europe is just Slavic languages, but it's not. It's not just Slavic people. So, especially with everything, I think, happening politically in that region, I think this is kind of a historical context, which is very, very important to understanding what's going on right now. I think the Ukrainian-Russian war currently going on, tensions in the Balkans, maybe tensions even between other countries, or the Hungarian situation. I think it's all very important, and it sheds a really new light onto the identity or the idea of Eastern Europe. So this one is the first one that I want to talk about, because I do have an Eastern European origin. My parents are from ex-Yugoslavia, so this one really does hit home, definitely. So I can only recommend it, and I'm looking forward on to how it's gonna reshape my view on Eastern Europe as well. So as for the next one, I have The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. It's an older book. I think it was published in 2014, 17? Wait, hold on, I have to check. Oh, 2012 actually. So this book is about why people disagree so strongly about politics and morality, even when they all think they're being rational and good. So it's a book about rational thinking, about morals, and why do we have certain rules for morals and ethics. So Haidt, the author, he's a social psychologist, and his main argument basically is that we don't reason our way into moral positions, we feel our way into them first. So usually people thought that we think about them first and then we feel about them, but he actually proves that we feel them first and then we reason them. and we justify them intellectually afterwards. Exactly. So he talks a lot about liberals, conservatives, and religious communities, since they're the rules or reactions to moral situations is very strong. And they are having different moral priorities, for example, which explains why people often just talk as well past each other, especially in political debates. You see one making an argument, the other one just brushing past it to make another argument. So I don't agree with everything in this book, but I still find it really useful, especially if you're interested in polarization, political conflict, or just understanding why conversations online are very much impossible, I would say. So it's really, really interesting, especially I don't come from a psychological background. I'm a sinology student, so there's a lot of also psychological concepts and theory as well being mentioned, but I still think it's very easily understandable. He also adds lots of graphs as well to visualize the as you can see, to visualize his ideas, which I really liked and could actually grasp as well easily. So I really actually like this. I haven't gone too far into it, but he also gives you in the beginning, I love the storytelling as well in here, because he gives you certain situations to think about. He goes on to say that there's a dog that has been hit by a car outside and nobody's on the street. The driver just left and the dog is dead. The family takes the dog back into the house. Nobody saw this. And the family read that dog meat is actually really yummy, so they decided to actually cook the dog since he's already dead, and nobody saw anything of this. So the family did this in their private rooms. Nobody was there to witness it. But why do people still feel very, very strongly about it, that it's wrong, that it is morally wrong that they've done that to their own dog? So he gives you situations to think about, and I also felt repulsed. I do have a dog myself, and I could never imagine to do such a thing, since I see him as a friend. I don't see him as just merely an animal. I have an emotional connection to him, and that's the point. I feel for him first before I actually try to reason him. So yeah, it's actually very nice and sheds a new light onto the, I think, very, very difficult topic about ethics and morals. So this one is my second book I'm currently reading. As for the third book, it's again touching up on Eastern Europe, but this one is Café, Europa by Slavenka Drakulić. And this is a collection of essays about Europe written by Slavenka. She is a Croatian author who lived through the Yugoslav wars, and it's very reflective and it's also very personal. So it's not a historical analysis or anything. It's much more about her personal experiences, subjects she brushes on, comparing the state of Yugoslavia, how things were then, and also afterwards, after the wars, how it has changed. So if you don't know, in the 90s, the Yugoslavia, the Socialist Federation of Yugoslavia actually broke up, since Slovenia and Croatia declared themselves independent in 1991. Afterwards, in 1992, Bosnia following, which then ignited a civil war. Historians like to say civil war, that's why I'm sticking to it, between the people of Yugoslavia, which was a very, very brutal war, let's put it like this, to not comment further on it. So if you're interested in the Yugoslavian wars, you can definitely look them up and see many documentaries about it. It's, for me, very personal. So back to the book, actually. So she writes about everyday life, So cafes, borders, nationalism, post-socialist identity, and what it actually feels to live in Europe, especially in places that are often ignored in Western narratives. She's also traveling a lot, so she I think currently lives in Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, with her husband, and she talks about the differences as well between her and her husband, and when they're traveling, and also just a view on the people and current politics, that they are misunderstanding each other or not sharing the same view. So I think this one is quite personal, but I really like her views. I'm not saying that I mean, I've gotten until more than a half, so it's quite short, it's a quite thin book. But I think this one, it really pairs well with the Goodbye Eastern Europe book, especially in places that are often ignored in Western narratives. And it feels very intimate, very emotional as well. So it's less about grand history and more about how politics quietly shapes the daily life, especially the daily life of, I think, ex-Yugoslavian people. So yeah, this one is a very personal choice of mine that I took to read. But yeah, she has definitely an eye for detail, and she's also a bit comedic in a way, so there are some passages that I really liked and are really funny actually, so if you're interested, go for it. And Slavenka Drakulić is really a good author, so I really liked her. For the next book we have something else. It's actually fiction for the first time. We have Agnes Grey by Anne Brontë. It's a classical novel about a young woman working as a governess, and honestly it's much more realistic and restrained than I actually expected it to be. I got this actually when I was in China, funny enough. There was a vintage store and that was the only English book that I found, and I just wanted to also read something more easily, so I actually bought this. But it was my intention to actually go and search for this book, so more of a gem than I thought. So it actually deals with class, gender, emotional endurance, and as well moral integrity, again, the moral topic, and it's quietly devastating in some moments, especially in the beginning. You wouldn't think that quickly that it would devastate you so much, but it did quite shock me. So it's also has some brutal parts in it. So, and doesn't romanticize suffering the way Victorian novels sometimes do, which we see in different novels. So instead it's a very grounded, very honest, I would say, and very sharp in critique of how women were treated back then. So I feel like Anne Brontë is often overshadowed by her sisters. If you know, the Brontë name is very famous. And she wrote, this one is she the third sister? I'm not so sure anymore. But she's the lesser known sister, and she wrote this, and I really, really think that this book really deserves more attention than others compared to it. So I have started a few chapters on it. I think the first 3 chapters, and of course the English is a Victorian English, so it's not the modern English, but I still really believe that, yeah, this book was actually €4 back then when it was printed, funny enough. But yeah, I really like this, and I hope to see more of it. But it is quite shocking, so maybe read at your own risk. So the next book is actually The World After Gaza by Pankaj Mishra. I hope I pronounced it correctly. I will have the name in here. But this is a very heavy book, I have to say, emotionally and politically, especially for me. So Mishra looks at Gaza not just as a place, but as a moral and political turning point in the global order we currently see going on. So it is about Western hypocrisy, colonial legacies, and how violence is justified or ignored depending on who it happens to. So selective morals, I would say. But It isn't a easy read, sorry, and it's not meant to be. I think that's the intention of it, to not be easy on the reader's mind. But I think it's incredibly important, especially if you're trying to understand how current events connect to longer histories of empire and power, and especially the subject of colonialisms and post-colonial states. So definitely one of those books you read slowly and put down often. I've read about 1/3 of it, so it's quite heavy, and it makes me think a lot. Even how I said that, it makes me think. I do hope it makes me think, but the heavy thinking, sometimes I read it and I put it down. I have to go out and maybe try to distract myself, because it's really, I mean, for me it is very heavy on the mind, and it's a constant thought just reoccurring and reshaping my thinking. So yeah, I think it's a very, very great book, and I can't wait to finish it, but I'm also kind of scared on finishing it, to be honest. But yeah, so I won't say much about this. I think it's self-explanatory as well with the title. So the next one, also moving back again to fiction, actually is a Chinese book, Cries in the Rain by Yu Hua. I got it in Chinese. I also have it in German, but I wanted to show, I think, the Chinese one because it's prettier. But Yu Hua is actually one of my favorite contemporary Chinese writers. I've been introduced to him actually at university. We read one of his first books, which was 许三观买血记, the book, The Blood Chronicles of 许三观, I think it's called in English. And this book is actually a semi-autobiographical book. So it's a series of essays about his childhood, growing up, witnessing violence and absurdity in everyday life, I would say. So what this book actually makes very special is the tone. It's tragic, but also strangely funny at times, I have to say, because sometimes I was starting to smile and giggle a little bit while reading it, but then I felt really bad about it again. So there's this mix of cruelty, innocence, and dark humor that makes it very human, I would say, especially considering that humans, when they are in a very, very tragic situation, they tend to make funny remarks about it, laugh about it, and make dark humor jokes. So it's very human, I would say. And it's a great example of how political violence isn't just something abstract. It shows up in ordinary moments, in families, in memories. And all in all, a very, very intriguing book. And it is in Chinese. I'm trying to read it in Chinese, as you know. So also for my Chinese learners, if you want to read another book by Yu Hua, which is a bit more advanced than 许三观买血记, definitely go for this one, because the style of the writing is similar to 许三观, but the vocabulary and I think the general reading level is a lot harder than 许三观. So I can definitely recommend this. I bought this in China. I think you can also order it online on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, because Yu Hua is a very, very famous novelist in China, and you can buy his books everywhere. So I guess that won't be a problem. And we're already moving to the next book, which is a book I haven't started yet. So I just wanted to show it, maybe share some thoughts on why I chose it. But this one is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, I think Kuang. And it's a fantasy novel, and it's inspired by Chinese history, especially the Sino-Japanese Wars and the opium trade, actually. So it's known for being extremely dark and intense. I've heard people say that it kind of a little bit traumatized them, or they couldn't finish it, they couldn't read it. But I've heard also very mixed things. So people either love it or they find it very overwhelming. But I'm really interested in how it uses fantasy to talk about colonialism, war and trauma, and how it sets the frame, I think, in those topics. And I'm kind of currently mentally preparing myself before starting it, to be honest. I still have exams for uni, and I still have to write my essays, which are due in January. So I think I will start this after I finish my essays, so I don't get too sad, I think, emotionally, so I can still write my academic papers. But I think it's a thick book as well. So it's about how many pages? 527. I haven't read a book this big in quite a long time. I think when I was in high school, I would read like a book like this in one night. I would inhale it. But now that I'm quite tired of reading articles and keeping up with the academic papers for my classes as well, and for my papers, it's really difficult to also read books like these, and I think it would overwhelm me to start this one right now because it's so big, and I'm gonna do this when I'm on holidays. So looking forward to this. I'm very, very excited. And I mean, the Daily Mail, it's printed on the cover, but it says that parallels with modern Chinese history resonate deeply and darkly in this blood-soaked epic of orphans and empresses, gods and shamans. So very, very excited about this. Love the keywords. And yeah, gonna see how this goes. And the next book I also haven't started yet. I got it actually as well at the library, which is how we are moving back again from fiction to non-fiction here. So How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, which is by Walter Rodney. And this is a classic anti-colonial text that argues that Europe's development was directly tied to Africa's exploitation. I think that is very clear for some people, but for some not, maybe. And I've actually wanted to read more about it because even in school, when we touch up on the colonialism in Africa, it's a very, very high surface. So it's surface level, I meant surface level. So we just brush upon it. Maybe we look at Egypt, maybe we look at Nigeria or South Africa, of course, but not the states in between or as a region, or how Europe still interacts with Africa. So it's mostly historical and about colonialism, but not very post-colonialism, in school at least. So I wanted to know more because I'm very much in a bubble of the Asian sphere since I do sinology and modern Asian and Middle Eastern studies. So I'm quite touching up more on the Middle Eastern, whatever you define as Middle Eastern. I believe that word or that term is also very problematic in its own way. I think maybe you've seen some debates about it, but the question is Middle Eastern to whom? So who sets that term? But the studies are called like that, so I cannot change it, unfortunately. But yes, so I'm touching up on that topic as well, and I feel like due to the MENA regions, which are the Middle Eastern, Northern African countries, which are typically in the Islamic studies mentioned, I also feel like there are some different topics that I wanted to touch upon about. And actually, the foreword of this book is written by Angela Davis. So if you don't know Angela Davis, and leave you some time to maybe Google her. But yeah, back to the book. It's a very influential in history, development studies and political theory, post-colonial theory, but also known for being dense and confronting as well. So it's not just descriptive, but it actually confronts you with ideas and makes you think about them. So this is one of the books I will be slow and demanding, I believe, but also really necessary if you want to understand global inequality properly and the way that politics treats, I think, Africa as a continent. So maybe I'll read the back text for you, so you know what it's actually about, maybe, and why I chose it. I mean, I've also only read this back of the book, so I only know so much. So, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa is an ambitious masterwork of political economy, detailing the impact of slavery, colonialism on the history of international capitalism. In this classic book, Rodney makes the influential case that African poverty is not a natural feature of geography or a consequence of culture, but a direct product of imperial extraction from the continent, a practice that continues into the present. Meticulously researched, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa remains an unshakably relevant study of the so-called Great Divergence between Africa and Europe, just as it remains as a prescient resource for grasping the surge in global inequality today. In this new edition, Angela Davis offers a striking foreword to the book, exploring its lasting contribution to a revolutionary and feminist practice of anti-imperialism. So, this is the info I have on the book as well, and also from the library, what the librarian told me. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, quite excited to read it. But I will also start this, I think, after my winter. After I finish all my papers, so I have time to actually get myself immersed into this one and learn more. I think that's my most important goal for all of these books, to learn more, to have a differentiated view on certain topics and views. So that's my main goal. So the last two books that I'm currently reading are actually for university. So in the beginning, I didn't want to add my university books to this video. I wanted to just show my personal choices, my personal picks. But I still thought that due to the overlapping themes of these books that I've shown you, as you can see, huge stack of books. So due to exactly the themes that are overlapping over here, I thought maybe it's important to mention also these books I'm reading for university, for my academic pursuit. And maybe some of you don't know one of these books, I'm not sure. One of them is very, very famous, and I've read it actually already in German before, but now I have to read some passages again in English for a class, and I actually decided to get the hardprint copy because I think it's a very important book, especially for the studies that I do, to have it actually in my personal library. And this one is the very infamous book Orientalism by Edward Said. So this is one of the foundational academic texts that completely changed how people think about the relationship between knowledge and power, Western Europe, the Oriental world, the Occidental world. So Said argues that the West constructed the identity of the East as exotic, backward, and inferior. So, and that this identity, it wasn't neutral scholarship, it was deeply tied to colonial domination, of course. So it's not an easy read, I think it takes time, but once it clicks, you start seeing the influence everywhere. I'm really absolutely honest about this. Every single time I see something, and I can connect it every single time to this book. So in media, politics, literature, all of it, the current political situations, it's all tied to this, and I think Edward Said was one of the most influential writers and academics who, contributed to this field of study, which, I find it very fascinating. And some people are tired of this book, I feel like, but it's a classic. It comes up every single time at university. I think lots of you may have touched upon it, maybe a few chapters or maybe some passages maybe just some quotes. So that's why I think it's crucial to actually read the full book and see his arguments from the beginning to the end. And I'm looking forward to actually deep dive again into this, because the last time I've read some passages and some chapters about this book was, I think, in the beginning of my studies, so in my first year of sinology. I'm already in my master's right now, so it's been quite some time. So I'm actually very, very excited to reconnect again with Edward Said and this book. But yeah, that's it. And the next one is actually Politics of Piety by Saba Mahmood. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm not Arabic speaking, but this one is also actually for university. It's a book that challenges liberal ideas about feminism, agency and freedom, especially in the Islamic and Arab-speaking world. And Mahmood looks at women in Islamic piety movements and asks us to rethink what is choice, what is resistance, what does it actually mean in this context. And it's uncomfortable, but in a good way. I don't know how to explain it, but it forces you to question assumptions you didn't even realize you've had. So I think that's a very, very significant point, that there are certain things that you have in your mind, you haven't really questioned it, or you haven't even realized that you've had these assumptions, and now you're confronted with it, basically. So for this book, I think, is for anyone interested in Islam, gender, and political theory as well. So I think it's incredibly important if you are in the fields of Asian studies, Middle Eastern studies, African studies, and or just generally interested in Islam and women, gender, feminism. So very, very great book. And I have already read one chapter of it, and I still need to read three chapters for class. And I have to write a paper about it, but yeah, really looking forward to this one. That was my current reading list. It is very ambitious, I know, not so much fiction this time. Maybe that will change next year, I'm not sure. But it's very slow moving, and it's very much shaped by my real life, by the things that I currently see happening, and of course my university. But I like thinking of reading as something ongoing, not something you have to rush through. I've seen quite a lot of TikToks recently, or this whole thing about book talk, where people just rush through books, I think, in a day or two. Most of them are fiction books, I know, but still, even if it is fiction, I think you need some time to realize what you've read and think about some passages. Maybe sometimes your view changes. Sometimes I think a passage is really, really good, and then I take a break, and then I think about it clearly and more detailed, and in the end I believe it's not so good anymore. So this whole phenomena of people also advertising books they haven't really read. So I've seen on TikTok the debate about this, that people make videos, 2-3 videos about books every single day, which is, I mean, maybe you can do it, but I would find it very unconvincing if a person actually proposed to read a book to me where she reads, I think, 4 or 5 books a day. Like, did you even have time to think about what was being said, what was being transmitted through this book, the ideas or the critique? So, of course, not everything has to have a deeper meaning to it. I do know that, but I still feel like reading is something that you can apply to your real life, to your daily life. You can escape reality, of course, as well, with fantasy novels, for example. But still, even then, I feel like you need some time to grasp what was being said and why is it important to you? Why do you like reading it? And or what comfort do you get from it, and why do you read it? So yeah, if you haven't read any of these, I think 8 books, 10 books, ugh, can't even put them up. If you haven't read any of these, let me know what you thought or what you think. Maybe you've read actually one of these. Is there a book I need to absolutely prioritize? Do you believe one of these books are not so good? Maybe you've read them already, so you know more than I actually do right now. And of course, if you have any recommendations based on this list, I'd love to hear them. I'm very, very interested about these topics right now. So I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.